car fans, welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Revell, and this week's build I'm featuring here, this is a 70 Challenger TA, which is short for Trans Am. And for 1970, this is a brand new model from Dodge, and they also took it racing in the SCCA Trans American Racing Series. And this car, it did pretty well, for the first official entry in racing and everything, but the race car was pretty wild, but the street car was even wilder. The race car, while they were limited to the 5-liter limit as far as engine displacement, which came out to 305 cubic inch engine, the race car ran the de-stroked version of the 340, and it ran a 4-barrel car, but it made 440 horsepower. So, I mean, it was no slouch, but the street car ran the standard 340, but it had an Edelbrock intake with 3 2-barrel carburetors on it, which is why it says 346 pack right there on the back of the fender right there next to the door, and which made it even wilder street car. But to my surprise, never really understood this, it carried the same 290 horsepower rating as the standard 340. So, many people knew that was a lie, and it's estimated that it was really making about 350 horsepower out of that 340. But she was quite the fun street car and could surprise many big blocks. But there's a lot of stories that I've read about those. It's also one of the first cars, or the first production car, to run 2 different size tires front and back. That's something it shares with the AAR CUDA. It was running like E60-70 or E60-15s in the front and G60-15s in the back or something like that. Don't quite exactly remember the sizes there, but it was pretty unusual, and it also carried this very fancy exhaust there, where they had the mufflers in the standard location, but they came back out to the sides and ran the megaphone tips, is what they called those, which I don't know if it made it any louder. It was pretty cool having it much closer to the door where you can hear it. I don't think it was really much louder, but it's hard to say. I've heard a few of them running, but I've never really paid that close attention to it. But I always thought that was just really cool, having the side pipes, but still having the mufflers and not having the whole thing right down the side there. They ran 8 3/4 rear ends, and you were available with a manual transmission or an automatic. Dodge made 2,399 of them, so there's quite a few of them out there, but still pretty rare. And only 989 of those had the 4-speeds. You can get an automatic or a 4-speed. And any number of options was available on this, but they all had this fiberglass hood. So, which was kind of unique to the car, much like the AAR CUDA ran a fiberglass hood. But also, because it ran a fiberglass hood, it ran the antenna on the back quarter panel. That's kind of something that stands out amongst the Challengers. A real TA has it back there. Any other Challenger would have it on the front fender, passenger front fender. But really cool car. And then another unique item to them was this dovetail spoiler that was officially not available in any other Challenger RT, but you could buy it and add it if you wanted to at the parts counter. Blacked out tail panel, which was same as the RRT, and then also there are no exhaust cutouts on this rear roll pan because obviously the side exit exhaust. I added this plate here, but it was and available in any number of colors, from Panther Pink, which is one of my favorite ones, really wild. Didn't really sell very well at that time, but any number of colors, white, even black. But the TA stripes only came in black. So if you got a black car, it had the gloss black body, matte black hood and spoiler, and the satin glass decals on the side, which really makes for a striking car. Hard to duplicate in a model kit because of obviously the decals, and I like to clear coat over them, so I'd have to re-clear over them in the satin. But getting its gloss in the letters, around the letters, and then satin anywhere else be kind of difficult. The only way I could see of actually doing that is getting a stencil made and airbrushing it in satin over the clear. That would probably work, but it'd be a bit of a challenge. I don't know if I'm up to something like that, and I'd have to get the stencils actually made and track somebody down to do that. But quite a car and one of my favorites. And I just remember it was just one of the most striking ones that caught my eye back then in the 80s when I was shopping for model kits back then. And I remember seeing that molten red one. I showed you one of those kits recently because I ran into one that was just really nice and just brought back those memories. And I had to buy that kit. And I shared that with you, all of its kit and contents. And the simplicity of this kit, even though it's a really nice kit, Monogram kit of the time, 1/24 scale. But it's just really nice, even though it's kind of got somewhat of a bland firewall, decent inner fenders. Not perfect, but pretty good for the 80s. And this is a later 2000s reissue where it has better decals. So it has, there's the emissions decal and some of the warnings on the air cleaner and the 346 pack. The original issue had the 346 pack and the stripes on the outside and then the coolant decal right here. But most of these underhood decals were not there on that issue. But on that one, I just remember leaving it molded in red, putting the decals on it, because that was the appeal to me, was I didn't have to paint it. I just brush painted the hood and the interior. So I basically painted, the bulk of it black, all the parts that needed to be black, painted the engine orange, and then did the flat black. And I don't even think I really did much with the wheels and tires. I just put them on. I always thought these Monogram Revell rallies look really good, even though they're a bit deep. And I think they look a little more muscular than the real ones do. Just one that I've always really liked and just fond of this particular car and this particular model kit. So when it comes to the Challengers, I pretty much gathered them all up in scale there. So I got MPCs and Monogram Revell and even some of the AMT ones that have the roof that's not molded in. But just enjoy the car. I think it's a really cool car. But, this one, I just always thought these were really nice. They could have been a little bit better as far as some of the detail and how the kit is made. But, for a teenager at the time, it was just a really cool kit. I was probably 13, 12, about that time, maybe a little younger. But just one of those cars that just was really striking in the box and everything. But this is not my original build. I did show you that one and how it migrated because it wasn't all that great. And I had rebuilt it. And I think at one time I kind of did it as the custom street rod or streetcar version with the other hood and the stacks. But back then, I played with a lot of my model kits. So a lot of them got taken back apart, put back together, rebuilt, torn into parts. I played with them. Many of them got broken. But those are the memories that cemented, my modeling passion. And while this one is an early 2000s build, when I got back into modeling, this thing was re-released, molded in white. I airbrushed this one in sublime green here, and because I just really like that color. I could do a better job today with the paint. You can kind of see some of the specs in it. It wasn't polished out, wasn't cleared. Not one of my best paint jobs. And I'm not even sure this one's primered underneath. It might be, because I think that's about when I was starting to do primering. But it's just, it is what it is. And, I like this one. I do know that I did tear it apart, clean it up, and put the bare metal foil on it, because the first time I did this, it didn't have the bare metal foil. But I really didn't do anything else to it as far as when I freshened it up years ago. I mean, I added this license plate, just printed one up using the Acme license plate website and making them, and you can save them and scale them down and print them. I did that on a number of them back then, and this is one of them. But got into foil and painting the tires and detailing out the engine and the chassis. So really like it, and I made sure I painted the inside of the body. This is when I was really starting to do that, because you could see in there. And on some of them I black them out. On some of them I body color instead of leaving them just oversprayed plastic. But that's just my progression. But it's just a really, really cool model, and I just really like it, of course, and because of all of those memories, that's why I've got some of them. And all of us, we do our flashbacks, and just remembering earlier times and things like that. And this is just one of those for me, which many of them. And as I share them with you, I remember some of these thoughts and challenges and overcoming them and feeling triumphant and all of those things. And that's why some of these, I gather them up, I see them at shows and at swap meets and pick them back up. Did it again recently with a couple more kits. So as my stash grows and I pick those things up, it's just kind of fun for me, and I don't mind sharing them with you guys. You guys seem to really like it. But I figured this week I would do a Mopar. I've kind of teased this one in the past, got asked about it, so decided this is the one I'm going to feature this weekend. So for those of you that are new to the channel, I appreciate you checking us out. Go back and look at some of my older videos and everything there, and consider subscribing if you like this kind of content. Also hit that like button and the bell button to get my latest uploads and notifications. And please leave a comment. I love reading those comments and responding to them. So with that all said, you guys, you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Saturday.